last corner of the game.
For this run. What a run. Marshawn Lynch. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got a lead. Leon Wilson to catch. Geno Smith and Jigba. The Seahawks are going to host the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does.
Is it going to be another 9 and 8?
Players who've got to finish something.
They have to fix the offensive
Part of his
line.
success and part of
Ambition of being the LOB
Want to hear that's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the Hawks Zone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, joining us tonight is Lynn Jarrett and Ryan McAdams, President and Vice President of the Canadian Seahawks Booster Club, to let us know what is going on with them and what that's all about. And then we're just going to get into what's happening on the field. The Seahawks. Guys, thanks for joining us and talking Seahawks tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So, when people think about the Hawks and you think about Seattle and the West Coast, and that's majority of their fan base, you don't really think too much further than that. Obviously, Vancouver, we know there's a lot of season ticket holders, but then you kind of dive into it and you realize there's fans all over the world. Like, there's Seahawkers booster clubs all over the world, and you guys are representing the Canadian division. So why don't you kind of give us a little insight of how that all started and how it's grown and just kind of the week to week that happens with the Seahawkers here?
Well, our chapter, the Vancouver chapter at the Canadian chapter, but we're based in Vancouver. We were started in 2008. So we've been around for a bit, and we're also a registered nonprofit society. So that's part of being a Seahawkers chapter, is being a nonprofit. And currently we have 52 members. We've had up to 80 some members. That was pre-COVID. Of course, COVID affected everything, including memberships and people coming out. So we're slowly getting, people coming back out and joining. We do watch parties every game day. And this is our third season now. Our home base for our watch parties is at Carlos O'Brien's in Vancouver. They're at Burrard and 7th. And as luck would have it, the general manager there is a Seahawks fan, so he was more than happy to have the Booster Club come and do watch parties there. So we're guaranteed to have the game on the big screen and with sound. And it's been great for us because, just people that happen to be in the bar at the time when our watch parties are going, they kind of get caught up in all the chants and the cheers and everything that's going on. We've been able to sign up new members from people just coming in and happen to be there and having a look. And that's our week. We have raffle prizes and we have lots of fun things going on for our members. You don't have to be a member to come and join, to the watch parties with us. It'd be great if you did sign up, but it's not a requirement. Everybody in the bar who's, got Seahawks gear on, they get a free ticket for a raffle prize. And it's a lot of fun. And like I said, being at the one place has really helped. We've also, because we've been affiliated with that bar, before every season starts, I get in touch with Seahawks marketing department just to find out sort of what's going on up here in Canada. Like they had the 12 North tour up here a couple years ago, a couple seasons ago. And so every year I just check in and see what's happening. And that's when we found out about the 12 North Bar Alliance that they've started up here. And because of our affiliation with Carlos O'Brien's, I was able to lobby to have them designated as an official Seahawks bar. So that really helps with getting our membership going as well, that people are drawn to the bar for that fact, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Awesome stuff. So I got to ask both you guys just to, before we get into too much, Lynn, how did you start becoming a Seahawk fan? I mean, if you lived in Vancouver, you're from the U.S. originally. I mean, obviously we got the CFL up in Canada too. A lot of Seahawk fans up here though too. So how did it all start for you?
For me, it was a family thing. My brother kind of got Ryan started in with the Seahawks, and when I finally retired in 2013, then it just became my passion, and I joined the Booster Club, and then I was on the executive board, and then I became president 3 years ago, and that's how I got interested in the Seahawks. So,
and like you said, my uncle sort of beat the Seahawks into me at an early age, and he used to go down to games all the time and stuff, and just sort of drilled it into me. And as I got older, I just got further and further into it, and I'm just another addicted fan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, right? There's always that one moment. There's so many memorable games for like I was down at Beastquake, back pre Legion of Boom, and so just before that's kind of when I really got my taste. And then obviously, if you go to a game like that, I mean, I think if you're in that stadium and you weren't a fan then, and you're witnessing Beastquake, you're automatically a fan. So it's just one of those things that this franchise is just so many memorable times where you just kind of get hooked with this squad. So yeah, that's awesome, man. What do you guys? Obviously, let's get into the game a little bit. This Sunday, I want to get your guys' perspective. 3-3, we're in first, but it's been a sloppy last 3, or at least a sloppy last 2 for sure. Detroit was competitive, and they were a good team in their house. Another road game. Is this kind of a season where you guys thought this is where we're going to be, being fans of the Hawks? Is this kind of 3-3 record wise? Did you expect it to be like this, or did you kind of expect with, Pete's departure and this new regime coming in, did you guys expect better? What were your guys' expectations? And maybe, if you could speak for the Seahawkers in general, is this sort of where you kind of expected this squad to be about now?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Like, for me personally, I figured this was probably an 8 to 10 win team. So 3-3 through the first 6 isn't really that surprising. I probably had them losing to Miami and beating the Giants. But, if you told me before the season they were going to be 3-3 after 6 weeks, I'd probably say that sounds about right. Like, I think the roster needs some stuff overhauled. There's still some holes on it. They got some good players, but they also got some definite holes. So I think what they do on Sunday against Atlanta, though, is probably going to be a sign for where this team's going for the year, because they're playing a team that's good but not out of their league. And if coming off of a mini bye, they can go out there and do what I'm expecting them to do, which is beat Atlanta, then it gives me a little more hope that this team's going in the right direction.
So I've got a question then for you guys about this, because obviously there's been a lot of change this year. We've gone from Pete for, a long standard time here. How did you guys feel about moving off of Pete Carroll and that whole change to Mike McDonald? And given the start that we are 3-3, and like Ryan, you alluded to, you kind of figured they'd be a 8 to 10 win team. Did you feel like moving off Pete was the right move, or do you think it should have been another year of Pete and then maybe make that decision in a year, considering we may be in the same boat that we were with Pete?
Well, for me, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I was sad that Pete was leaving, but I kind of feel it was necessary. I saw it was kind of getting a little stagnant. It was sort of like the same thing over and over and over again. So I wasn't overly upset that we got a new coach in, and obviously they want to bring all their own people in and make whatever changes are going to be made. So I'm not from a game standpoint, I'm not upset that Pete is gone. Obviously he's a great guy, and like he put a lot of effort into the team, but I'm okay. I had the rose-colored glasses on when we started, and it's like, wow, we've won 3 games, and here we go, right? And then reality, of course, set in, and the first game we it was like, wow, this is like really great. And then the next 2 games were more like Seahawks football, where you're like pacing the floor and it's like right down to the final second. Like that's what we're used to as, Seahawks fans, is that, biting the fingernails and getting the defibrillator out and stuff. But anyways, that's my take. Go ahead, Rye.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of agree. Like, sad to see Pete leave, but at the same time, I think a change was sort of needed. They'd sort of been stagnant. Like, they just weren't evolving, the same problem over and over again. Some of those problems have still stayed around, even though they've got a new coach. But, I mean, you can't overhaul a roster in one off season. And I think that it's going to take another year or 2 before Mike McDonald has the actual pieces that he needs in place to have his defense run the way he wants his defense to run, and hopefully to have the offense run the way that the offense needs to run. And hopefully in the next year or 2, they can move into being a championship caliber team. And
yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what we've talked about on this show for the last little while. You talk about the roster and how, really he inherited a lot of guys. I think Bryce and I have talked, how they, especially in the secondary, when in free agency time, they brought in some guys like, Jenkins and Kayvon Wallace and just different guys like that. Just kind of, we looked at it like hoping, something will stick, and, might not be the exact personnel, but let's just see what we got. It's kind of evident with the linebackers too, with Baker and Dodson. They're both on 1-year deals. They drafted a young guy in Tyrese Knight. So it's just like, we'll see what we got. See if one guy works. Maybe if Dodson works, we extend him. If not, they're out the door. And then Mike and John can sit down for a full off season. Like we said, Mike wasn't around for a lot of that too. I mean, they were there, the whole hiring process, it got off late. So as far as the personnel, I'll get you guys' thoughts on this then. So, because obviously a glaring thing, and it's really under a microscope this year, is the offensive line, right? Especially the guard play. And, Abe Lucas, obviously injury problems that it's anybody's guess if that guy's going to be that long-term answer, even if he comes back this year. Is it time for John, and is maybe Mike going to help him out in the offseason and say, hey, it's time to stop neglecting this? And, I know obviously he drafted Charles Cross and he was a top 10 pick, but really he's overall the last 12 years, you want to say, really neglected it. Is it time to make that one of the ultimate focuses here? We'll talk about the defense side of the ball, but just with that O-line, because it's just teams, especially this year, week in, week out, we're talking about the offensive line.
I mean, absolutely. That offensive line has been a problem for a while. Not just this year. It's been an ongoing issue. I mean, I think you can make an argument that Charles Cross is a top 5 left tackle in football, and yet you still have a 5-man unit that is in the bottom of the entire league. Like, how bad does that make the other 4 parts of that line, right? Like, it's just, was it the 17 pressures that Bosa had on Thursday night? Like, that's a season for some guys, right? Like, that's, I mean, that's terrible. Like, it just, but I mean, you're also on your 3rd right? Like, you're apparently you might be looking at a 4th right tackle.
You are.
Yeah, like, so the only real saving grace there is at least Atlanta hasn't had any luck rushing the passer this year. So maybe you...
Yeah, I know. The O-line's definitely been a massive concern, I would say. And I agree with you, Ryan. I think it's been something that's definitely been an issue, probably back to even post Hutchinson when he was moved on from Seattle. They've never really been able to solidify that O-line. Yes, we had a serviceable O-line when we won our Super Bowl in 2013, but none of those guys were like right home, all pros across the board. And I feel like it's kind of been this thing for Seattle where it's like, well, it wasn't a glaring issue because Russell could make plays happen with his legs. He could get out of trouble. But now that we've got Geno, and Geno can get out of trouble, but he's nowhere near the athlete that Russell was behind some of those offensive lines. Yeah, I think there needs to be a serious reallocation of either salary cap or scouting to that part of the team, and even on the defensive side as well, because you look at our defensive line, and again, Mike's got to get his personnel guys in here, but it's kind of worrisome when we lose a rookie like Byron Murphy that there's that much of an impact to our run defense when one guy's out and he's just joined the team this year. Like, it's something where I think that's going to be the glaring mark on John Schneider until he gets it right. Is, yeah, John, you've made some great moves, you've drafted some great defensive backs and different players, but you've never really been able to hit on the O-line, and that's been this team's Achilles heel for years.
Let me ask you guys this.
I heard
go ahead, Ron.
Earlier, I was just going to say, I heard something earlier today that in the last 15 years, the Seahawks have drafted one offensive lineman that became a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, no, like apparently, from what I've heard, Mike Jarrell's starting, which I'm really excited about on Saturday at right tackle. I'm kind of, you're never happy to see someone get hurt, but I'm kind of glad that Stone's maybe not playing, and we're going to get see one of our rookie tackles if he can actually do something, because Stone has not played well. I think he's given up the most pressures in the NFL, and I think he's given up like 35 pressures so far this year, which is a scary thing to consider. There hasn't been anybody that's gotten near that. So it'll be interesting on that one. But so I'm going to kind of pivot this right now until Ryan hops back in. But what is your guys' takes on Geno and the future of? It's going to be a topic until they figure out what they're going to do. He's obviously under contract next year. There was rumors around the time they went to Nashville for camp this year that he approached the Seahawks about potentially looking at some sort of an extension. They traded for Sam Howell. Do you think Geno is the future quarterback of this team for the next foreseeable future, or do you think it's dependent on how this year goes and what his play is like throughout the entirety of the season and not just kind of a half of it?
Well, me personally, I think it's going to depend on what the full season is going to be like, because he's like hot and cold, in my opinion. It's like he has super games, and then the next game you come back and you go like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? So I'm not going to, drop the axe or pass any hard judgments until, the whole season goes through. And, to be fair, also, like you've all been talking about the O-line issues, some of that you kind of have to give a little, to Geno's favor because of what's dealing with the O-line. But I think as a, top tier quarterback, there's ways of overcoming that too, like you watch other teams play and, they've got quarterbacks that just seem to, no matter what's happening with the O-line, they seem to work out the kinks and get around that and still make plays. So I'm going to give them the year and see what happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Geno's just good enough to not lose you a Super Bowl. Like, I don't think he's going to go out and overcome the shortcomings of a bad offensive line and all that stuff. But if you took like one of the better offensive lines and stuck him in Seattle right now, I think Geno's good enough that you could ride with him for a couple of years until you can find the young replacement to come in, kind of thing, right? But I don't know that he's I mean, he's getting old, too,
Right.
so it's not like he's going to have much more than 3, maybe 4 years left.
So here's my question to you guys, and I'll pose it this way. So just like you said, Ryan, is that he's good enough not to lose you a Super Bowl, but he's going to keep you relevant in that potentially that 8 to 10 win, which kind of keeps you out of that ability in a lot of ways to get a top young quarterback coming out in the draft. So with that being said, like, is that something that like that's where I'm kind of, for me, I'm torn, because it's, do I want to be in that middling kind of, we're 8 and 9, like maybe we push it, we're trying to build up the other pieces, but the time we get them built up, say the O-line and stuff, Geno may be 37, 38, but he's kept us so competitive. We've missed out on opportunities to get that young guy in the building. Kind of like when we had Russ, we were able to build up that team for 2 years and then bring Russ in, and off they went. And we did what we did for a period of time there and won a Super Bowl and went to a second. But do you think, like, my thing with Geno is I haven't seen the signature win from Geno. And that's kind of, for me, as a guy that coaches quarterbacks and coaches football in general, like, I want my guy to have a signature win. And I look at last Thursday when we played the Niners, and it was supposed to be different. I don't know for you guys, but I thought it was going to be a different outcome in that game. I thought we had an opportunity, that this was finally going to be our year to actually potentially at least win one game with the Niners.
Well, and the Niners were also struggling, right? That's
exactly. And the Niners were also struggling. So for me, it was just this is going to be Geno's moment to have his signature moment and his win. And he came out and in a lot of ways didn't play that great, laid kind of a dud. And that's where it's kind of been for me with Geno. Like Lynn, you alluded to, he's hot and cold. He's on, he's off. He's got a 4-game stretch. He's really good. And then you have 3 games in a row where you're like, where'd the guy go that was just playing the, past 4 games? So I don't know. I think Geno's good. I don't think he's great. And I think eventually they're going to have to make that decision sooner rather than later on what direction they're going to go. And I'd like to see what Sam Howell has to offer, because I think there's a lot of people that don't respect Sam after 1 year of what he did in Washington. And let's be honest, Washington's been a bit of a dumpster fire as of late until Dan Quinn got there. So I'd be interested to see what Sam could do. And, I don't think you'd have to pay him a lot of money to keep him here, and it'd allow you maybe to spend more money on that offensive line.
I mean, I can't really say I disagree with anything you just said. I'd be concerned about how many games you have to lose with, like, you know what I mean? To have that chance to get that good quarterback.
True.
That would just be a hard year to deal with.
You mean like a Jim Mora year?
To get a high enough draft pick in order to do it. But anyways, I could go for Sam Howell having a few starts this year and getting the next version of Jaden Daniels in Seattle. I wouldn't mind that. But, I think that's a good point, right? If you can take some of that money and fix parts of the O-line, I'd be okay with it. It's part of the reason I wouldn't pay DK 30 plus either.
Right. I think the thing I find the tough thing for Seahawk fans is nobody wants a year like that. Nobody wants to win only 5 games. But then the problem is we find ourselves middling, 9 and 9 or 9 and 8, whatever you want to call it. And who wants to do that? You look at even a team like the Steelers and a guy like Mike Tomlin gets a ton of praise because he's always got an above 500 record, but it's kind of just that. And yeah, he won a Super Bowl. So of course, Mike and Pete's the same way. You win a Super Bowl, you got a long leash. And that's why I'm wondering how long John Schneider's leash is now, because now he's solo, right? He doesn't have Pete there. It's not that, it's Pete and John making decisions. No, John, it's on you now. And that's why I think this O-line is talking about even more, and the personnel we're talking about more, because that was the whole thing. Was it Pete? Is it John? Well, we know who signed this year's free agents and this draft and all this kind of stuff. So it just, how does that work? But I think it's as fans, you want to win, but realistically, this isn't an 11-win team. This isn't a 12-win team. This is maybe max this year 9. And then where are you gonna be? Like Bryce said, you're kind of too far away from that top pick. And I think this next 3 game stretch is really gonna tell us how this team is gonna go. Because, next question I'm gonna ask you guys is about this Atlanta game. But because if we don't come out of that one, you're 3-4, you go home, play a good Bills team, and then you play a divisional game against LA, and we always know they're tough. Especially, last year we thought that was 2 wins on the schedule. We go 0-2, and then we go by, and then we got to play the Niners in their house. So it could get away from us. To Bryce and I, this is a big time game. Depends how you look at it. There might be some people who say, hey, I don't mind if they lose, because then we probably spiral under control, and then this roster gets overhauled. You mentioned DK. I'm a big DK guy. I want to see him here. I think he could be a good piece. I think they could adjust enough money, but I want to ask you guys about this Atlanta game. Big time game. So we'll get into it with you guys here. What are some keys they got to do to come out of this game with a win? And give me a prediction on this game. Lynn.
Well, I think, they've got to get the running game going. I love our running backs, but I think what happens is that we get so far behind, so then the running back or the running game just kind of takes a back seat because you're doing all the the throws to try and get down the field. So I don't know. Atlanta's 4-2, I think they are, aren't they? Yeah. So they're manageable, but it's just a matter of whether what the plays are being called. And that was one of the frustrations for me when Pete was there, is that it's just like the same calls over and over and over again, and it's like there's no surprises for anybody. So I'd like to see some surprises and things that people aren't expecting, and I think we can hold our own if everything falls into place. But again, it's is the O-line going to hold up? Is Geno going to be on point? And hopefully this 10 days is enough to get them back on track and refocused. And I hope they win. I'd like to be positive that they're going to win, but I've been disappointed before.
Do you got a score?
Oh, no.
You don't. Okay.
No.
Ryan,
not even gonna go there.
Is that okay? Okay. Is that a superstitious thing for you?
Yeah, just because it's
It's hard to pick them to lose. I totally get it. I sit here on the show. We always do a preview show, and then Bryce and I come out. A lot of times we'll have guests on as well, and we get down to our picks. And Detroit game, I picked them to win, and I just couldn't do it. I said this isn't the week, so I went 4, and I finally had to sit there and say I got them losing against San Francisco, and it pains you. It's hard to do it, and then you hope you're wrong, but.
Well, I said they were going to win against the 49ers, and look how my predictions went. So I don't.
So you're done with predictions? Yeah, no, I get it, and I'm just saying I hate picking them. Bryce knows I can't like that, and that's the part you because we do the podcast, and you kind of gotta get the fan out of you a little bit sometimes, and then say, okay, I gotta just analyze this realistically, and it's kind of works in your favor, because if you pick them to lose, and then if they win, you're a fan, so you're excited. And if they do lose and you pick them to lose, when you kind of look good, right? So it's it's kind of not a bad thing, but yeah, Ryan, what do you think, man? Yeah, what do they got to do to win? And if you got a score, throw one out there for us.
I think the biggest thing they're gonna have to do to beat Atlanta on Sunday is the run defense is gonna have to hold up. Atlanta's got a real good run game. They got the 2-headed monster back there. They're going to run the ball down their throat. That is going to be a guaranteed thing that Atlanta's going to try and up. They're going to have to make stops. They're going to have to get off the field on 3rd down. And they can't allow Atlanta to get into these 3rd and shorts and go on these long drives down the field and keep the defense out there for forever. Because then if the Seahawks don't have their run game going, and they're doing 3-and-outs, and their defense is out there for 10, 12 play drives, like it just sort of snowballs out of control. And so I think that's pretty much going to be the big key for them, is they're going to have to stop Atlanta from running the ball. And I'll take Seattle 28-24.
Nice. Nice.
So I got a question for you guys, or for Ryan actually. You talk about the run game for Atlanta and it being the big thing they got to stop. So we get Byron Murphy back this week, and our run defense should improve based on when he's been in the game. How worried are you now that Trey Brown, Reek Woolen are out? Julian Love's kind of playing on a bit of one leg with his hamstring quad, and then we also lost Rayshon Jenkins for a few weeks now to IR. Do you think that Atlanta may come out and try and throw early to see if they can get something going through the air before going to the ground game that they have, considering how beat up Seattle's secondary actually is?
I mean, it would make some kind of sense, but at the same time, like, they've based a lot of their offense around those, like, getting the run game going, and they've been a good running team all year. So, like I said, if they get into even any kind of third and shorts, they're going to be able to pick apart the secondary, because it's getting pretty thin back there. You know, like, if Spoon's probably going to have to be in three places at once sometimes just to stop them from throwing the ball all over the place. But I mean, they got to, you know, like, they got a couple good pass catchers, even though Pitt seems to be not quite everything he was hyped up to be. It's not like he's still not terrible, right? Like, he's going to, I don't know. I think they're going to be hard pressed to stop them if they let them get into these third and short situations, because the secondary is pretty beat up. So I think it's just that much more important to shut them down in early downs and really try and make it hard and pressure Kirk Cousins whenever they get into passing downs, and just hope Kirk Cousins thinks it's a primetime game or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's oh man, that's the scary thing about this, is the thing that was haunting us for the last few seasons was the inability to stop the run. And now here we are talking about it again. And I think, you know, we're not going to put it, you know, all on Mike here right away. You want to give him some time, but at the same time, you want to see things tighten up a little bit and get the fundamentals a little tighter, because man, it's tough as a Seahawks fan to just, you know, getting punched in the gut there again with the run game. I mean, giving up 230 against San Francisco's backs. I mean, it'd be one thing if CMC was in the lineup, but it was guys you never even heard of. So that's the tough part, you know. So you hope that, like, you know, we were mentioned that this mini bye, the guys get to reset and just work on what they need to do, have a good week of practice. That's what you're hoping, and just come out and just look a little tighter when it comes, especially the run defense. And you know, secondary is what it is, but I think but I agree, Ryan. I think yeah, you're gonna they're looking at this saying these guys can't stop the run. So but we'll see.
I know, like, sorry.
No, go ahead, Lynn.
I was just going to say, like, I know after the 49ers game, there was some frustration expressed about, you know, all we heard about when Mike McDonald came was about, he's so, you know, he's Mr. Defense, you know, like he's a defense guru, etc. And then, you know, the last three games, our defense has kind of fallen apart, and it's kind of like, what happened to our defense guru, you know? So I think that's some of the frustration that I've heard expressed, is that we're not seeing guru stuff happening out there on defense. And it's like, where to go?
Yeah, and I think, like, personnel is part of it, but I think, like, Lynn, to your point, it can't be all of it. Like, there's got to be some onus on the coach. I mean, he's making, you know, he's the head coach. It's the NFL. This is not, you know, well, let's just let him ease into this. I mean, yeah, we don't expect things to be firing all cylinders. Bryce and I agree, but I also think it's got to be, we want to see progression, right? Like I think if we sat down all four of us together mid-December and it was exactly the same, there would be an alarms setting off here, because I think we want to see how is this season, wins aside, like is this defense getting tighter, or is he, just things looking okay? We make a few moves, or we clean a little bit of house over here for 2025. We're feeling good. But if we kind of stay on this plane, then when late November and early December come, that's when the alarms start setting off for us anyways, and I think a lot of Seahawks fans. So we're 6 games in, there's definitely concern, but it's like, okay, that's why I think this next 3, we're gonna, and you know what, 3 games in 10 days or 11 days, it's a lot of football. So you give that's why I like this little reset and give these guys a chance to just take a breath. Like I know Geno went and saw his nephew play, like just get away from football a couple of days, come back, reset, and let's get down to business, guys. What do you guys got coming up with the Seahawkers? Like what's give me, let's just speak on that for a few minutes here for we let you guys go. But obviously every week you guys are getting down at the pub there, locals. How can people really get involved? Anybody watching this show that's either from this area or just across Canada or wherever, how do you get involved with your group and build this thing up a bit here?
Well, they can, like we find that like a lot of people that are following us on social media, like we're very active on Instagram and Facebook. Like every week, we're doing posts on there. We've had people come into the bar and say, I found you on social media. So that's been a good thing. We can, like they can contact us through our social media and give them their email. Like it's $20 an individual per year for membership dues, or $30 for a family of 4, like all living at the same address. Those are Canadian dollars. Like the price, the dues are set by the main Seahawks Booster Club in Seattle, and then we've just converted them into Canadian dollars. But so they can sign up for a membership. The membership, we get a discount at Carlos O'Brien's on our food when we're there. We can get discounts at the Pro Shop at Lumen Field. There's 3 or 4 restaurants between here and Seattle that will give discounts if you show your membership card. People get an opportunity for field passes. So the Seahawks, every season so far, have gifted the chapters field passes. So there's about 20 that are given per game. So that's a perk of being a member of the Booster Club. And plus, we have a lot of fun at, in spite of what's sometimes happening on the screen. Like they've got the big 85-inch screen there, and like I said, it's guaranteed our game is on there with sound, and we get pretty loud, and the cowbell's going with the touchdowns, and everybody's running around slapping everybody's hands. So it's a lot of fun, to be a part of the Booster Club. And we welcome everybody, and people come into the bar and they're wearing Seahawks gear, and I'll go chat them up and say, hey, this is who we are, and we're here every week. And we also do in August for Kits Fest, we do a like as a chapter. Part of the Seahawks vision is that you're supposed to be involved with your community, volunteerism, that kind of stuff. It's a requirement of us as a chapter. And we have individuals that do stuff throughout the whole year, volunteerism. But every year at Kits Fest, we partner with Red Zone Flag Football, which is run by David Benefield, who used to play for the Lions. So he contacted us a few years ago, and we go down there, set up our tent, have a presence there. We do a barbecue where, feeding the participants in the thing by donation. If you don't have any money, that's fine. You still get a burger, but whatever you can do. So we do that every August, and we have a lot of fun at the watch parties. They're worth coming out to. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's awesome stuff. And guys, we'll post all that. We'll post the links in the description here when this video is posted as well. So anyone listening and you're in the area, guys, go check it out. Sub to the Instagram. So obviously a lot of the news is coming out of that too. So yeah, that's awesome stuff, guys. We really appreciate you guys coming on. Big game this Sunday. And let's hope to be 4-3 and
Exactly.
get back on this winning track here. So, guys, we appreciate it again.
Oh, great. Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
That was the Canadian Seahawks Booster Club president and vice president. That was cool, man. Just kind of getting that local fan perspective. They've been doing it. They obviously know the team. They're huge fans. They're growing it, and they're tied in with the Seahawks, right? Like Seattle knows that they have all these chapters. It's good for the brand, and it's just great for the community. I mean, what a cool little thing that you're down here. They're locally over at the bar, and it just you need more of that, right? So it was cool talking to them. They know Seahawk football, talking with them, knowledgeable. And it's just great to get that fan perspective on how the team's going. Like when we were talking with Lynn and near the end there, when she showed a little frustration of like, hey, I thought this guy was supposed to be this guru. And I think that's, hey, listen to the fans. Like, how are the fans reacting to, like, we liked Pete and we're okay with them out the door because we thought things were different. Right now, I think people are kind of seeing the same thing. And we know there's bigger issues, and some of it's on Mike, some of it's on the personnel. But it's that perspective of like, how are the fans sort of feeling thus far after 6?
Well, and you know what? Like, it was really fun talking to them. They're like our base chapter kind of, right, is here in the lower mainland of Vancouver. So it was cool talking with them and finding out all the stuff that they do. You can sense the frustration. You can sense it on Seahawks Twitter. You can sense it now from like Lynn and Ryan about like, this was supposed to change. It was supposed to be different. Like, we weren't supposed to see the same thing again with the 49ers. Like we've said, there's going to be changes that are going to need to be made come this offseason. Like, I don't think it even matters if this team sneaks into the wild card run. I think they're going to be making changes because I think Mike McDonald is aware of areas that there are deficiencies on this roster, and he's going to address them. Like, and here's the thing too, that man comes from the Harbaugh coaching tree. Those dudes know football. You look at the Chargers team, you look at the Ravens team, like, they know how to build successful football teams, and that's what he's grown up in. He's going to get this right. It may take him a year or two to get it right. And that's where, for me, and I've kind of changed my tune a little bit now looking at this season. I had expectations. I remember on one of our shows, I said, hey, you know what? 12-5 is the reality. Like, I was high on that 3-0 start and like where things were going. And I've had to do a lot of kind of reflecting on what's going on, even looking back at those wins we had and realizing, you know what? I got a little too wrapped up in, the success that we were having against very weak opponents, realistically. Like, let's be honest, Denver. And, you look at Denver, they beat up on the Saints, but they're nothing to write home about. New England's struggling. Miami's a dumpster fire. I think this is a building year. I think we got to see where this team realistically goes. And like you said, these next 3 games are huge in determining that, especially the one this Sunday versus Atlanta is going to be huge.
Yeah, I think like this is a big game in a few factors, and I think the one is you have a mini bye. So Mike has 10 days to get this thing right. If they come out and kind of do the same thing, like on the offense, on the defense, they don't get any turnovers. They get obviously the punch in the gut and run down their throat. That'll be a big thing to watch for. So if some of the same things are just happening that we saw against the Giants and Niners, then I think that might be the theme most of the year. And that's the thing, because this is the stretch where you had 10 days. Now you do have the bye coming up later on in November before you have to go play the Niners. But if you get back on that plane 3-4 going home, and if you lose like we've lost, that's tough. Where's the confidence now? That's when you're really going to see how Mike and the players respond to each other, because that's when a guy like a Pete Carroll in the past could maybe keep this room up. We've seen it with the headset and the iPad, and both those things I just mentioned. I love those guys. That doesn't change my tune about DK Metcalf, because I love his. Thing about him, he owned up to it, man. He even owned up to that pick. He said, when I sort of faded out, that's on me. He could have easily said, nah, that's not on me, or not say anything. Because who does interceptions look bad on? It looks everyone right away points at the quarterback. So he owned up to it. Grubb laughed about the headset. Grubb loves these guys, and that's just part of it. You know what? When you're not going to see a headset, when you're not going to see an iPad, is when this team sort of tightens things up and starts winning some football games. And I think that you talk about, you just said, and Seahawks fans thought this was the game, the Niners. Why do you think Geno Smith and DK thought coming out of that tunnel that game? Yeah, hey, we should take care of business, and things weren't going their way. Maybe DK was pressing a little too much because he had some targets, and Geno underthrew him a little bit. DK drops balls. These guys are good ball players, and I think frustration is boiling over from all ends. So that's why this Sunday is just going to be big in so many ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing here is they did get a small reset. They got an ability to take an extra couple of days to really look in, and just quoting Mike McDonald, he was on 97.3 FM Cairo News Radio, and he was doing his interview that he does with Steve Rabel once a week. And Steve asked him, hey, how are you handling this mini buy? And he goes, I think the biggest thing that went on was just, hey, let's take a reset here. Let's take a step back, figure out where we want to attack, where we are, who we are as a football team, and then let's get that information to the guys, because they deserve the truth. You have to understand where you need to improve, what you're good at, and who you are in order to take the kind of next step. That was our responsibility as coaches, and it's been a great week with that. So you listen to that, and when I read that, even to me, what that says is you have a coach who is self-aware. He's self-aware of the issues, and okay, we needed to reset. We need to understand what's going on, because he goes on to say, there's some conversations that you have to have, and with yourself too. He said, I think everybody is doing a great job at looking inwardly and trying to figure out where they can improve as an individual, and I think our team will be better for it. I bet you Ryan Grubb did soul searching on this, going, okay, there are things I know we can do from what I did at Washington, but there's things we can't do that I thought we could. So we got to scrap that until we get to a point that we can. And Mike McDonald's probably sitting there with the defense and doing the same thing, going, you know what? I thought we were farther ahead with the installation, or what these guys understand. We got to dial it back. We got to get back to what we were doing right, and then we'll try and, again, go farther ahead with it. So those are that whole dialogue there, to me, is very polar opposite of how Pete would have handled that. Right. In the sense of, Pete would have said something along the lines of, we're going to get it right. You know what? We know what we got to do. We're going to get it right. We're going to get it right. And it's I want to hear my coach be like, hey, you know what? I own on a lot of this blame in a different way than how Pete used to say, oh, it's on me. Mike's telling you, we have to do soul searching right now to figure a lot of this stuff out. And that's where, for me, I like that change of tune and his methodical thinking of things, compared to maybe, necessarily the raw stuff we used to get from Pete that got stale, very old, very quick. I think there's a higher chance that we see a turnaround with this team this week than we would have if Pete was in charge. Yeah,
man, those are good points. I just think it's it's gonna just be how do they respond, and I think this is just I think you could say this is the biggest game of the year. So
It is right now, yes.
and even
100%.
moving forward, because if we lose it, then you sort of know kind of the direction of this team, but then you don't want to be middling. Like you almost want to be like, man, just I don't know. It's tough, right? Because you separate yourself as a fan. But if you lose, well, you're not going to make the playoffs, right? Unless you go on some run, and then you want to win the last few, like we've done, and to get up to 8. You know what? Like I'm fine with that if we play good, but not like we've seen say last season when like we won 9, but we just didn't play that good. Like that Pittsburgh game near the end of the year, like we lost that game, but we won 9 games. But like that game was near the end of the year, and we looked terrible. We won the Arizona game somehow, and it's like we didn't play good, but you won 9. And then you draft in the middle of the pack, and sure, we got a great stud there, but that was because everybody picked a quarterback. So we'll see what happens. We're jumping ahead. That was a great conversation tonight, guys. We're gonna post all their info up, the links in the description, so you guys go down and scroll down here and check those out. But great convo. Cool to get some fan perspectives. This Sunday, Atlanta, we already threw out our predictions. Might as well just do it again for anybody that didn't see that one. But I threw out a 31-24 score. We both got the Hawks winning. I know you think the defense is going to start tightening up a little bit. And that was before you know all the secondary guys. So I mean,
no kidding. I might want to tweak mine here a little bit.
But you can tweak it. I'm sticking with mine because I think 24 is reasonable. Like, as far as, because I think they're gonna get run on a bit. I just don't think it's gonna get that cleaned up. And we're missing some pieces there on those corners.
Dude, I'm looking at it right now. The out word is a terrifying thing. Jarek Reed, who's coming back, is listed as out, which means maybe he's back in a week. Who knows? But Trey Brown's out. Reek Wollen's out. Yeah, I gotta adjust my score prediction right now because I was planning on at least one of them being available.
Right. Yeah, we thought Reek might be, but
yeah, I'm gonna go. I think it's gonna be. I think 31-24 Hawks. I think Seattle's
the same score as me.
Yeah, I honestly do.
I like it. Okay.
I think it's going to be a higher scoring game now, and I think Seattle's offense is going to have to do what they kind of did in Detroit.
Right.
But the defense might be able to get a stop a little, or a few more stops, I should say, than they did versus Detroit, just based on the fact they've got Byron Murphy back and they've got some of these guys in the interior back. And there's nothing on that besides Drake London. Kyle Pitts has been a disappointment, but Drake London's kind of their only real outside weapon. So I figure if Spoon's covering him, maybe we see Kobe Bryant play some more corner again in the nickel. And he's been pretty good at covering tight ends. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, let's hope so, because tight ends have actually eaten us up a lot this year.
Yep.
So, even thinking back to that New England game, so it's just like, let's get a body on them. So there you go, guys. That's it. We're going to be coming live to you guys right after that game. So, make sure you hop on, get our live reaction. Probably be, one of those 30-minute live reactions, chop it up, 30 to 40, take your comments and questions, and just have some fun with that. So we got some cool stuff coming up in the upcoming weeks as well. So like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. What a run. Marshawn Lynch. Get off me.
DK. Hey, it's Josh Carter with the Seattle Seahawks.